Okay, joining me now today are Greg Stokes and Ryan Horn. Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out with me.
Hey, this is Greg. Thank you very much for having us today. Yeah, happy to be here.
Great. Well, hey, I wanted to start with a little bit about your backgrounds. And before we get into the details of Custom Crush, which, by the way, today I wanted to focus on this more from the grape grower standpoint. So instead of talking about the business of how you operate and run a Custom Crush, which would be more the winemaker's take if they're interested in getting into Custom Crush, this is called the Vineyard Underground podcast. So we're going to talk about what experience will a grape grower have, or what should the grape grower expect if they want to get into creating their own wine brand or just want to come to a Custom Crush for their solution. So with that kind of preface there for everyone listening, I want to get a little bit of background for both of you. So Greg, let's start with you. How'd you get into the wine industry and into Custom Crush?
Well, I got into the wine industry. This is my 40th harvest. Hard to believe for me. Wow. Yeah. And so I got into it. I started out actually in the vineyard doing vineyard management. And then one of the places where I worked, they needed more help at the winery. So my position kind of morphed into a grower relations winemaking position. So I worked at wineries all the way from 2,500 cases up to close to 100,000 cases. So I have a lot of experience in a lot of different environments.
Great. And currently, what are you doing now in terms of Custom Crush, and where are you working? Because you are in both California and Texas, right?
Yeah. So we run a little winery in California, Ursa Vineyards. We do about, between 5,000 and 8,000 cases a year, depending on our Custom Crush. And then in Texas, I'm working with Bending Branch Winery out there. We're doing between 30 and 35,000 cases. About half of that is Custom Crush work.
Excellent. Excellent. And Ryan, how about you? You're also dabbling both in California and Texas as well, which I thought would be interesting about getting both of you on here.
Well, so I mean, I started out in the industry working for Justin for about 8 years. That's where I started out, and then kind of went to open, my own company, Vintner's Vault, and through the clients that I found, and so many of them vineyard owners, I'd seen a need for a place for fruit to go back in, almost 20 years ago, and so we started our first. And as everything just kind of continued to grow, and the Vintner Vault equipment business made its way to Texas, it just kind of made sense that the winery production and Custom Crush kind of went over there as well. We were pretty versed in it, and it was very helpful for a lot of our clients who were growers and venturing away into the winemaking side of things. So that's kind of how we ended up in both places, and ended up in the world of Custom Crush.
So let's start with the Custom Crush part in terms of just defining it. Greg, maybe you can jump in here. For a grape grower who's not familiar, who has never really, thought about the idea of making their own wine, or was daunted by the idea of investing in an entire facility to make wine, what do we mean when we say Custom Crush?
Well, Custom Crush, it allows a grape grower who, for whatever reason, whether they decided they want to get into the wine business or they want to try and move a crop in another way other than fruit, perhaps as bulk wine. It allows them to have wine made, and then we can bottle it. We can help them bulk it out, sell it. But we bring in the fruit, crush the fruit, make the wine. We can finish the wine for them, or they can have it finished somewhere else. Or we're pretty flexible on how we approach it, and it's pretty much a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
Depending on what the grower or the client wants.
Absolutely. So custom, however much they want to get involved, I guess they can to a degree, or if they just want to be more hands-off and let the winemaker make the decisions, I guess there's both options there.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So Custom Crush, I've seen more and more wineries starting to offer this service. And I'm just going to say the last decade since I've been working with my growers, I've seen a lot of my clients transition into small wine brands. I've had some of my growers I work with approach Custom Crushes for different reasons, maybe excess fruit. When did Custom Crush facilities start to really take off Let's start in California because you've been working there longer. Is there a trend for, maybe a strong increase in custom crushes? Is it ebbing and flowing? What have you observed?
Definitely, it definitely has its ebb and flow. It's very cyclical in the sense of, what happens, or at least the experience that I've gone to here, is we get a number of demand for grapes. And so the supply starts to come online because that demand is really high. And then the supply comes online pretty heavy. People plant a lot of grapes. I'm trying to supply all these wineries. And before you know it, a couple of years go by, all these new vines come online. And then there's an abundance of grape and nowhere to go. And that's when the custom crush kind of starts to kick in pretty strong. And then, what I'd seen in the number of years I've been doing is that cycle continues, and more wineries are starting because of a lot of growers now are doing custom crush, and then they start to develop a brand. Next thing you know, they have a winery. Hopefully they leave the custom crush at some point and become successful and start a winery. That does happen quite a bit. And then all of a sudden the demand for grapes is greater. And so now they don't have the supply. So it cycles in that manner with the custom crush world, in my experience. And so, the demand changes every couple of years.
Brian, you mentioned the alternating proprietorship where you have winemakers, professional winemakers coming in and using the facility. So you kind of see that end, and then you've got your own team making wine. Is there an in-between with your facility, at least in the past?
Well, there really unfortunately can't be. And I think, and as Gray just mentioned, you'll have people from the custom crush side of things that come in and use the word intern, because that's the law. So that people know, if you are getting involved in a custom crush facility, you're legally not allowed to come in and work on your own wines because you're not licensed. It's one of the reasons we have alternating proprietors. If you do an alternating proprietorship, then you are allowed to come in and function and work on the wine. Otherwise, you have to be an intern or hired by that custom crush facility to educate yourself, to work and learn and, be a part of the winemaking process. And yeah, there's plenty of people that just want to stand around and watch you make their wine. At least in my experience, not all of them, but a handful of them. So that it can be fun, it can be annoying. It just depends on the client. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question directly, but
Yeah, no, that's great. It's just to gain a little insight for the grower who wants to be a little bit involved. Can I go and watch you crush? When are you going to put it in the barrels? I want to take some social media photos, things like that.
that's all be fun.
Yes.